Hey everyone, what's up? This is Uri for Guerrilla Poker, and in this video we're going to take a look at a pretty crazy hand that ended with an $80,000 pot between two of the current best online players of the world, LLinusLLove and Nikiforov, who I think is MunEZ star on PokerStars. If I'm wrong about that, I apologize. I'm going to treat him as though he's MunEZ star, and MunEZ is a guy who was actually with me on a Skype group in 2013, and believe it or 2014 maybe, and believe it or not, he actually decided to quit No Limit Hold'em. He was playing NL1K and he wanted to transition to PLO or do other things. Be that as it may, things changed, and for the past few years he has been one of the top 10, if not top 3 players in the world. I know you don't hear his name as much as LLinusLLove, but he's an absolute monster at the tables. So definitely a guy worth paying attention to when he plays. Kind of like I say about LLinusLLove. There are a few players in the world who, when I see them do something that doesn't make sense to me, rather than think that they're being silly, I sit down and try to see what I'm missing. And MunEZ is definitely someone whose game I respect enough that I would not expect him to make many blunders while playing. So this hand is played on GG Network, 200-400. Nikiforov, we'll call him that, I guess, in case I'm wrong, raises button to 900. Linus 3-bets roughly 5x, gets 4-bet and calls, and we get a King 9-8 monotone board. Here flop goes check-check, and this was the first action that surprised me, because generally in 4-bet pots, when it comes a king-high board, because the 4-better has ace-king a lot, the board favors him so much that he just bets everything. And these boards are extremely strong for 4-betters. Now, of course, this is a monotone board, so it's different. But I would have thought it makes a big difference. So I was surprised to see the check back. We'll take a look at that. Turn, checks, have a bet of roughly 1/3 pot and a call. River, check. Shove for 2/3 pots that's left and a call. And we see the showdown with ace-10 off and king-queen suited. So first off, I want to talk about Linus's hand. King-queen suited is always going to 3-bet and flat the 4-bet. You know, you check flop because you're not donk betting. Turn, it's good enough to check all a 1/3 bet. And then on the river, this is the type of hand that's nice to bluff catch with. When you're on the river with a bluff catcher, you're looking for certain properties for your hand. And these are the properties that will push the bluff catcher from being, break even to slightly plus EV to slightly minus EV. You're always going to call a bluff catcher like queens with a queen of hearts, because that is beating some of your opponent's value range. So your opponent could shove worse. That's not really a bluff catcher. We call that a value catcher. Once we're talking about bluff catchers, the things we're looking for are blockers. So a bluff catcher is always losing to value, beating bluffs. And we look at our 2 cards and think of the interaction. For example, when you look at this board, you want to think which hands would Nikiforov be value betting. So high flushes, obviously you cannot block those with bluff catchers. But which hands would he be bluffing? And you can try to think of those and try to unblock those, right? To make sure that you don't share cards with the bluffing combos. And this is what's going to change the EV of your bluff catchers. And given how tight 4-betting ranges are, this is going to be super significant. Here, it's a good question. We'll start with that. What's he going to be bluffing with? But certainly not straights, so having the queen is good, and probably not kings, so having the king is good. Maybe he'll bluff something like ace-jack, maybe ace-5 of diamonds, so you want to avoid having an ace, maybe avoid having some of the lower pairs. And then Linus's hand looks like a hand that's, without checking, would be either a break-even call or a winning call. So Linus played the hand kind of normal. MunEZ, on the other hand, played the hand in a fairly surprising way. So check back, like I said, was surprising to me. We'll take a look if this is correct. And then, it's 4 to a flush, but you have a pair of 10s. And he bets a pair of 10s. That's also a bit of an odd play to make. Generally, we like to think of poker, am I value betting or am I bluffing? And this is kind of neither here nor there. Like it's a strong enough hand to check and sometimes win. You have ace-jack and ace-queen, maybe ace-5. So what are you doing? It's a weird play. And then on the river, like I said, it's tough to find bluffs when you 4-bet and there are like 5 high cards and everything's a straight or a flush. So I think river seems good. So we'll do a short analysis, not too deep, just to see, because like I said, these are two players whose games I respect a lot. So there's often something to learn when they do something you don't expect. So King 9-8 monotone. First thing you can see is that this is a board where the in-position player actually c-bets only 22%. Like I said, most king-high boards you c-bet close to 100, if not 100%. So this is very surprising. And what I wanted to look at was to kind of understand why, so I could generalize this to other spots. And you can see the equity for in-position is 56.5, so it's very high, as is the pot share. So it's not about this being a bad board for the in-position player. Ace-king still hits. You also have flushes, so it's still a good board. And what I looked at was this range explorer graph. You can see this small graph over here, where the green is the out-of-position player's equity by hand, and the red is the in-position player's equity by hand. And what you can see here is that the red graph is mostly above the green graph, but not at the top. The very top, the green graph is a bit higher, or at least they're very close together. So what this means is that when it's a monotone board, the in-position player has, more top pair type hands, but both players have the same amount of flushes, and maybe in-position even has a bit less flushes. So despite this board being good for the in-position player, he doesn't have a ton. He's not the one who's interested in making the pot very big, let's say. He would much rather the pot be fairly medium-sized. The out-of-position player has, more bluffing hands or stacking off hands in terms of his range. So he's more the guy who should be growing the pot. Kind of surprising. If you look at a hand like ace-king off with no heart, on the flop it has only 62% equity. And 62 sounds like a lot, but once you start betting and you narrow down your opponent's range, 62 quickly dips below 50. So ace-king here, actually, for the in-position player, is not really a hand that wants to get in a lot of money. And I think that's kind of the key thing to understand about why check back. And like I said, MunEZ obviously knows this. MunEZ knows everything. So check back, and I think the turn was a 10 of hearts. Linus has king, queen of clubs, which makes sense to check. And MunEZ decided to bet with ace-10 no heart. And as we can see again, this is a play that is actually made some of the time. Not for a very clear reason. I'm not sure it's even a good play, if I'm being honest. There is something, I actually stopped and thought about this for a while, but when you look at these kind of bets, often something weird is going on. And here what you see is that when you bet ace-10, your opponent folds some king-jack, but then calls some jack-10. So you're getting him to fold better and call worse. But, who folds king-jack and calls jack-10? Aren't they the same hand, but the king is better? So it's super weird. Even queen-10 is calling sometimes, but king-jack folding sometimes. Super, super weird. If you try to wrap your head around why this is, you could find an answer. But the truth is that when we're modeling these situations, we always have to stop and put a reality check, and can always say, if my opponent is not folding king-jack, and rather than this just folding more queen-10, then this ace-10 mixed bet probably becomes bad. And if you ask me, this is the reality of this situation very clearly. Anyone of the viewers is welcome to comment if they think differently. I think even the great LLinusLLove would not fold king-jack but call jack-10. So I think the bet is inappropriate, even though surprisingly it's fine in theory. And yeah, of course, versus the bet, you will see king queen calling. And let's just quickly look at the river. So check, all in for MunEZ, with ace 10 being a hand here that is supposed to always shove and actually not win too much money, but win some money shoving. And when we look at Linus's hands, you can see kind of the effect that I was talking about with a hand like king queen winning. While if you had a hand like, I guess, ace queen of diamonds, which seems like a stronger hand but is actually holding the ace, which means your opponent has more bluffing combos, this hand would be a losing call. Or, something like king 10, where your 10 blocks some of your opponent's bluffs. So this is exactly the kind of generic, normal way that bluff catching situations work. And this is why, even though it's 4 to a flush, king queen is just kind of your go-to bluff catcher. And of course, you would rather just have a flush, but like once you're calling with a flush, like I said, it's no longer a bluff catcher. That wraps it up for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you next time.